We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order at this time. Our clerk will read the roll.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Aye. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present.
At this time, for those who wish to do so, you can please stand. We're going to be led in prayer by a Buddhist religious leader, Kisra Muli. If you'll please come forward. Thank you so much for joining us. Immediately following our prayer, we're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance. Going to ask if Councilwoman Baylor would be so kind to do that for us.
Good time to see everybody. Now the got to do this. Partially we can help the people by the spiritual development by this view. Let me pray. Namo Tassa Bhagavata Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavata Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavata Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Bhagavata Sabha Mangalora Khanda Sabha Devata Sabha Buddhanu Bhavana Sadasoti Bhuno Dem Bhagavata Sabha Mangalora Khanda Sabha Devata Sabha Dhammanu Bhavana Sadasoti Bhuno Dem Bhagavata Sabha Mangalora Khanda Sabha Devata Sabha Sankhanu Bhavana Sadai Soti Bhavanda Dem. May blessing upon you. By gracious power of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, may you always be happy, peaceful, prosperity, and may you always free from danger. May you always overcome mental, physical suffering. May you always be happy all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kisra Muli, thank you so much for coming and providing us with the prayer. Just to let our audience know, City Council has been very intentional to bring forth more diverse prayers when we open up our meetings. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley. Neal.
Abstain.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The minutes pass 12-0 with one abstention.
Before you, you have the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 13-0.
We do have 3 public hearings this evening. We have one in rules, and our clerk will read that item in.
Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, June 27th, 2022, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance amending and or supplementing Title III Administration, Chapter 30, Mayor and Council, Section 30.11, Limits on Non-Cash Monetary and In-Kind Contributions and Loans to increase the contribution limits for mayoral and council candidates.
So this time we'll open it up with a sponsor, Councilman Fusco.
Yes, the request of the committee is refer.
Okay. This item will be referred.
We have a public hearing on this, Madam President.
Councilman Fusco, you may mention that you're going to refer the item, but do you want to hold the public hearing tonight, like we did
Do we,
this afternoon? Yeah,
oh, this evening as well?
Correct.
Okay, well, go ahead.
so I don't know if you want to just explain a little bit about it before we open up the public hearing
Oh,
for
sure,
comments?
Of course,
Okay.
of course. Yeah, this is a proposal, and I've asked council to consider, take our time, look at, and what this amounts to is the campaign contributions for Akron City Council representatives for both mayor and at large, as well as ward council members. The law department pulled some data of the top 26 cities within the state of Ohio, the top 26 cities, and with that, the 4 cities have limits. The balance, there's no limits, and if we pass it as proposed, we'll still be the lowest in the state of Ohio in terms, if we pass it as proposed, other than the political party contributions piece, because the city of Lakewood, they have $2,000 per calendar year. Ours is set on the both primary and general election. So we would be a bit above that. But aside from that, we would, even if we pass it as proposed, we would continue to be the lowest in the state of Ohio. The last time council adjusted these campaign contributions was in 2014, and we continue to file a report. I believe it's the Friday before the election with the clerk of Akron City Council, and plus we have to have a report filed, I believe, 10 days before an election with the Summit County Board of Elections. And that report discloses how much one donates, their address, as well as, I believe, their place of employment. There is a new piece to this, and that is the PAC contribution, and I believe what we're proposing for that, which is new, $2,500 for both PAC contributions as well as political parties. Columbus is $13,000 per calendar year for both contributions from PACs as well as political parties. We also see Cleveland has $3,000 for a council member from a PAC and $7,500 for a mayor in the city of Cleveland. And in terms of political parties, there is no limits. And what we're proposing is $2,500. So again, we would be the lowest for the most part within the state of Ohio. I'm asking my colleagues to consider this. Will take time, as much time, you know, as we feel that is needed on this. And we're absolutely requesting public input on this. We had a hearing this afternoon. Unfortunately, no one had shown up, but we're having a public hearing this evening as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up our public hearing. Do we have anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor regarding campaign contributions? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Do we have anyone here in the audience wishing to speak against? So I'm just going to ask that you be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Hi, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying I do. I declare. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My reason for being against this is because it puts limits on the resources available for not only candidates but the community, because some of the communities that the candidates and the political matters are in are not always communities that are capable to have non-cash options and others. And just because other people are doing it doesn't make it right. Cleveland does a lot of stuff that's not right, and I don't want you all following suit. Columbus does a lot of things that's not right, but because other people are doing it doesn't make it the right thing to do. This is a very family-oriented city, and you all have a heart for the people in this city. As in spite of some of the difficulties that we're going through with some of these corporations, you're more heartfelt toward the people here. And I don't believe that the term limits is adequate for candidates and for any community leader to have a limit on how they can receive any type of funding or resources.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else here in the audience who wishes to speak against? Anyone else wishing to speak against? Seeing and hearing none, we're going to go ahead. We're going to close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
Okay. I will pull the committee to refer. Freeman?
Aye.
Mobian?
Excuse me, I didn't hear. What's the recommendation?
Refer?
Yes, I thought so. Thank you. Aye.
Thank you. Connor?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
We're going to refer.
Thank you so much. This item will be referred.
Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, June 27th, 2022, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an addition to a medical marijuana cultivation facility at 1956 South Main Street.
Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of council. Midwest Development Projects, LLC, doing business as Galenas, is requesting conditional use approval to construct an addition to the building. In June of 2017, Galenas received conditional use approval to construct a roughly 10,000 square foot, two-story medical marijuana cultivation facility. The addition will be behind the existing building, which had a unique modernistic form and would be constructed of non-combustible materials with white metal siding to match the existing building. 16 paved off-street parking spaces with a 5-foot in width landscape buffer will continue to be sited in front of and along the north side of the building. The site will undergo major stormwater management upgrades, including a new detention basin on the west end of the property. Galenas will continue to operate the facility in its current manner. Air intake and exhaust is controlled through mechanical ventilation. Security measures include video and alarm monitoring, digital key access, and a secured vault. Petitioner currently employs 21 full-time staff members and 8 part-time staff members, anticipates adding additional 10 employees to the team. The proposed medical marijuana cultivation addition to this property would be appropriate and welcomed along this rejuvenated South Main Street business corridor. Office of Integrated Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval, subject to conditions. Thank you.
Is there anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against item number 1? Just going to ask that you please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying I do. I declare.
Thank you. So this time we're going to go ahead and open up our public hearing. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak in favor of item number 1? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against?
Good evening again. I'm Apostolette, and I'm just going to say this briefly. I oppose this because there is absolutely too much money spent in pharmacology in these times. I wrote something about that in my book, Choose Life. And we people of faith are being denied fair and equal opportunities for our healing options. And when we go to do our healing options, such as laying hands on the sick and doing our natural healing options, we're put under labels and categories, but people don't actually pay attention to side effects of these pharmaceutical options. And I directly oppose this until you start being more fair to the faith community for healing options.
Okay. Thank you so much. So this time we're going to close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco.
Thank you, President Somerville. I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Kamer?
Aye.
Connor?
Aye.
Baylor? Mosley?
Aye.
Thank you. For the committee is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you. Yes, this is an existing facility of which they're requesting an addition. The architect was represented here this afternoon during that particular public hearing. We're asking that they, in terms of this addition, that they conform with 18 conditions within this conditional use. I know that the department, the planning commission, as well as the ward council person, Mr. Kamer, is all in favor of this. We're asking for approval this evening.
Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor? Aye. Connor? Aye. Freeman? Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
The ordinance passes 13-0. Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, June 27th, 2022, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance amending or supplementing Title 15, Chapter 153 Zoning Code, Section 153.566, Class UPD 33 District, to allow limited access to West Bath Road from Ascot Industrial Park.
Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of council. The city administration is requesting a zoning code text change to allow for limited vehicular access to West Bath Road from Ascot Industrial Park. The industrial park is zoned UPD 33, which currently states that no vehicular access is to be permitted to or from Bath Road to serve the development. The administration has received numerous communications from the businesses within Ascot Industrial Park regarding the periodic traffic congestion at peak times. The single point of ingress and egress at State Road, although signalized, is insufficient at times to adequately move the employee traffic. In order to help alleviate the situation, while recognizing the desire to limit heavy volumes of industrial traffic on Bath Road, the administration intends to allow limited vehicular traffic onto West Bath Road by extending Ascot Parkway south from the cul-de-sac with a single lane for outbound car traffic only and curving the intersection to prevent left turns onto Bath Road. This will allow employees a secondary means of leaving at shift change times while still restricting freight truck traffic to State Road. Additionally, emergency ingress and egress will be possible through the new drive for police, fire, and paramedic equipment. The Office of Integrated Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval of the proposed text change. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against item number 2? Just going to ask if you can please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying I do. I declare. Thank you.
We're going to open up our public hearing. Is there anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor? Anyone here wishing to speak in favor? Anyone here wishing to speak against?
Before I read what I wrote on my paper, I'm going to just say this. Humbly, I don't believe that you're listening and you're hearing us when we come down here. because last week some people left here very disenfranchised because of what seems to be emergencies for only certain groups of people. What I wrote was, this emergency is racially biased. No emergency status or accountability is done in reference to Kenmore Construction Company, who is destroying lives and communities. The people come and seek assistance from the council only to be ignored by many in reference to Kenmore Construction, who benefits from this resolution also. The larger corporations are not held accountable for the lives of the people and the communities in this rezoning and redistricting process. I don't come down here just to talk to somebody to listen to noise coming out of my mouth. I come down here to be heard because these people are coming down here to be heard, and when you hear someone, action takes place and no lives should be lost. And I want to know more what you all consider an emergency, because those people left here very, very disenfranchised last week and very hurt, and you may have an uprising. And I will be back for your non-agenda items.
Thank you so much. So this time we're going to close our public hearing on Ascot Industrial Parkway. Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Mr. Kamer? Aye. Connor?
Aye.
Baylor? Aye. Mosley?
Aye.
Thank you. The report of the committee is favorable.
Are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. This is adjusting the zoning code in terms of text changes in reference to the Ascot Industrial Parkway. And the reason behind this is twofold. One is that for emergency vehicles, access in and out is what this will be utilized for. And secondly, the traffic volume on State Road is, especially during shift change, is extremely excessive. So therefore, and I know that the council representative, Ms. Holland, communicated with the surrounding neighborhood and the community in terms of this. What it will do is have a one-way access, if you will. People can exit the Ascot development and only turn right, on West Bath Road. And the way it's been designed is that it will force folks just to go right. They will not be able to go left. So with that, we're recommending approval this evening.
Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor? Aye. Connor? Aye. Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco?
Aye.
Holland?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Homobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
We'll now move into our old business, planning and economic development.
Yes, thank you. The request of the committees to take time on item 3, and the report of the committee on item 4 is for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. Annually, we're asked to approve the Consolidated Action Plan, which includes the Community Development Block Grant funding, the Home Investment Partnership funding, Emergency Solutions Grant funding as well. And this has been discussed in the whenever we pass the capital budget, these particular items, at least in terms of the amounts of money that's allocated. And with that, we're recommending approval this evening.
Okay. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor? Aye. Connor?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco?
Aye.
Holland?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Omobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
Councilman Fusco?
Yes, thank you. The committee's report, actually, I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules on item number 5. Kamer? Aye. Connor?
Aye.
Baylor? Aye. Mosley?
Aye.
Thank you. The report of the committee is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. This is actually a dedication plat for that Ascot Parkway that we had just voted on in reference to the zoning code text change that we just approved. This is actually the plat for that can be filed, dedication plat with the county. So we're asking for approval this evening.
Okay. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor? Aye. Connor? Aye. Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco?
Aye.
Holland?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Homobian?
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
Councilman Fusco?
Report of the committee is for time on 6 through and including 12. Committee wishes to file item number 13. That's the medical marijuana cultivation facility that we just voted on. And then time on the balance of the agenda. Thank you.
Time will be granted. Public Service, Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you, Madam President. File number 1. Number 2 is the ordinance amending and supplementing Title 9, Chapter 95 of the littering ordinance. Today during committee, we have suspension of the rules with a favorable report, and we're asking for its passage.
Thank you. Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you. This afternoon, Captain Lagland, who also sits on the Keep Akron Beautiful Board, came in and gave us a detailed assessment of why this is important to help offset some of the littering that's going on in the city of Akron. This legislation will make community service mandatory for littering. 4 hours of community service will be mandatory. You can also do community service for your fine if you cannot afford to pay the fine. The fine will be $250, and with that, we're asking for its passage.
Okay. Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor? Aye. Connor? Aye. Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Aye. Holland?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Homobian?
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
Okay, we'll now move into new legislation.
Item number 2 is offered by Mayor Horrigan, resolution approving and confirming the appointment of Eric B. Reynolds for a term expiring on August 1st, 2023, and Stephanie Leonardi for a term expiring on August 1st, 2024, to the City of Akron Public Art Commission and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to pull the committee this evening, or excuse me, this afternoon. The committee had requested consent. However, we've learned that they have scheduled a meeting, and it's timely that we appoint these folks in a timely fashion, so we're asking for passage this evening. I'd like to pull the committee for favorable report with suspension of the rules. Freeman?
Aye.
Mobian?
Aye.
Connor?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Thank you. I have kind of explained why we are passing this evening because and these two individuals are very talented, and we request that they be approved this evening so that they can attend the next meeting, which I believe is within 2 weeks.
Yep. Thank you so much. Are there any objections on suspension of the rules? So seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor? Aye. Connor? Aye. Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Aye. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Abstain.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0 with 1 abstention. Item number 3, offered by Amobian, ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into and execute a renewal of the existing intergovernmental agreement with Summit County and various other jurisdictions for the shared purchase, implementation, and use of matrix case management software and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Amobian,
The committee's report is favorable, and we ask for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This is the matrix case management system. Is comprehensive, and it provides the software that is to assist with the combination of functionality and value. And it's a 5-year agreement amongst Summit County, the city of Caldwell Falls, Stowe, Talmadge, Barberton, all of the surrounding cities to help with the prosecutors' caseload and managing that. And it's a total of $331,200, approximately $66,000 plus a year for 5 years.
Okay. Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 4, offered by Fusco. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct a mixed-use development within the White Pond Office Park on the west side of White Pond Drive, south of Frank Boulevard, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
For an advertised for public hearing on July 11th.
this item will be referred.
Item number 5, offered by Fusco. Ordinance accepting the eligibility report for the amended White Pond Drive, Frank Boulevard Urban Renewal Area, approving the amended White Pond Drive, Frank Boulevard Urban Renewal Area Renewal Plan, and making necessary findings in connection therewith and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
For an advertised for public hearing on July 11th.
this item will be referred.
Item number 6, offered by Fusco. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an apartment development at 1793 South Arlington Street and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
For an advertised for public hearing on July 18th.
this item will be referred.
Item number 7, offered by Fusco. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an addition and parking at 560 East Talmadge Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
For an advertised for public hearing on July 18th.
this item will be referred.
Item number 8, offered by Fusco. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a Type A daycare home at 350 Grand Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
For an advertised for public hearing on July 25th.
okay, this item will be referred.
Item number 9, offered by Fusco. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into and execute agreements between the City of Akron, Highland Square Economic Development, LLC, Highland Square Mustard Seed Market, LLC, Highland Square Markets, LLC, Square Deal Market, LLC, and other entities in order to amend and/or modify the existing transaction that resulted in the development of the existing Mustard Seed Market grocery store in Highland Square and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
For.
this item will also be referred.
Item number 10, offered by Fusco. Ordinance approving the sale of a city-owned property pursuant to the city's land reutilization program in order to facilitate the productive reuse of the property and to reduce the cost to the city and the taxpayers and maintaining vacant lots, determining said property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 11, offered by Fusco. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee, without the formality of advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts with Sachs Consulting and Investigative Services Incorporated for security services at Lock 3 Park and and other recreational facilities and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Yes, thank you. The request of the committees for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. This is someone that we're going to be hiring in reference to Lock 3 as reported in the introduction to the legislation. The company, and this is attached to our legislation so everyone can see it, but the company that we originally had, we had some problems, so now we're making an adjustment, and this is reference, of course, safety at Lock 3 in certain areas downtown, so we're recommending approval this evening as we are well into summer, so we have to make this adjustment.
Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor? Roll call.
Baylor? Aye. Connor? Aye. Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco?
Aye.
Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Aye. Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 12, offered by Councilman Malik. Ordinance establishing the honorary designation of a section of Covington Road between Hampshire Road and Chatham Road as Helen Mitten Way and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 13, offered by Mosley. Ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of Riverview Road between the termini of 1460 lineal feet north of the southern property line of PTS of Lot 3, 4, 5, 6, 78, 67, 75, 76, 77, public purpose, and the Northern Corporation Limit, Merriman Road, between the termini of Portage Path and Riverview Road, Akron Peninsula Road, between the termini of Portage Trail Extension and West Seals Corners Road, Smith Road, between the termini of Riverview Road and San Run Road, Portage Trail Extension between the termini of Akron Peninsula Road and Northampton Road, and North Portage Path between the termini of Merriman Road and Portage Path Extension by resurfacing and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor? Connor? Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 14, offered by Mosley. Ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of Beardsley Street between the termini of Firestone Boulevard and Archwood Avenue by resurfacing, constructing and reconstructing curbs, concrete sidewalks and driveway approaches, and installing roof drain pipes and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley?
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Oh, sorry, nothing further.
Okay, no problem. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor? Aye. Connor?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 15, offered by Mosley. Ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of US 224 between the termini of Kelly Avenue and Hilbish Avenue by resurfacing and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor? Aye. Connor? Aye. Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 16, offered by Mosley, ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of Waterloo Road between the termini of Glenmount Avenue and Kelly Avenue by resurfacing and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. Any further comment, Councilwoman?
Nothing further.
Okay. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Aye. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Omobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 17, offered by Mosley, ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of Waterloo Road between the termini of Manchester Road and Glenmount Avenue by resurfacing and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
Thank you so much. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Omobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 18, offered by Mosley, ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of Cole Avenue extension in the city by paving, grading, constructing, reconstructing, and installing curbs, concrete sidewalks, storm sewer laterals, sanitary sewer laterals, water main and water main laterals, all together with the necessary appurtenances thereto, all in accordance with the petition submitted by the property owner of the benefited property and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Yes, the committee's report is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Omobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 19, offered by Mosley, ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of East Market Street between the termini of Canton Road and Interstate 76, Cyberling Street between the termini of Triplet Boulevard and Archwood Avenue, Innovation Way between the termini of East Market Street and Cyberling Street, Vernon Odom Boulevard between the termini of Romig Road and McTaggart Drive, and Opportunity Parkway between the termini of Edgewood Avenue and Cedar Street by resurfacing and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
Okay. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Omobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 20, offered by Mosley, ordinance ratifying the actions of the Director of Public Service and contracting with H.M. Miller Construction Company for the emergency repair of the Quaker Square sewer and authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Consent.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda. You good?
I'm sorry. Item number 21, offered by Mosley, Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to apply for and, if awarded, enter into an agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, for the rehabilitation of the runway end identifier lights and taxiways R, R1, and R2 at the Akron Fulton Airport and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 22, offered by McKittrick. Ordinance ratifying the actions of the Director of Public Service in contracting with H.M. Miller Construction Company for the emergency repair of a water main at Highland and Darrow Road, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick,
Yes, thank you, President. The request is consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 23, offered by Lombardo and President Somerville. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the renovation of the Ed Davis Community Center and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardo,
Consent.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 24, offered by Lombardo and President Somerville. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the construction of the Perkins Pool and Bathhouse Rehabilitation Project and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardo,
Again, our committee votes for consent.
thank you so much. This item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 25, offered by President Somerville, Councilwoman Holland, Councilman Malik, Vice President Fusco, Councilwoman Mosley, and Councilwoman Amobian. Resolution reaffirming the council's support for a woman's right to make basic fundamental choices about her reproductive health in light of the U.S. Supreme Court decisions in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, expressing opposition to a total ban on abortion in the state of Ohio and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Amobian,
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules. I would love for us to do this as council in a whole, but I'm not really sure if we'll get the entire council to approve this. But that is what we are recommending. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this, because I was totally distraught over what happened last week. We had Councilwoman Holland speak this afternoon, and I'm sure she would like to kick it off.
okay. Thank you so much. Do we have any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. So we'll open up with some of our sponsors. Councilwoman Holland.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Madam Chair. Esteemed colleagues and ladies and gentlemen, I rise tonight in great sadness. I am here tonight, I'm wearing my dissent collar, and I am wearing my dissent collar earrings, and if this is an unfamiliar image to you, allow me to explain. These are totems, these are symbols of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who for many of us represents everything that was taken apart on Friday, June 24th. And so it is my great honor on one hand to rise tonight in support of this resolution, but also my great sadness for the necessity to do so. I am proud to do this with my colleagues who are strong in their conviction as well. This is about standing for the 51% of Americans who lost everything that matters on Friday. This is about fundamental fairness. This is about basic equality. And I don't think I really have to explain that, do I? Now, I would like to share a few of the really poignant words that came, not surprisingly, and again, I'm thinking of Justice Ginsburg when I say this, and the dissenting opinion of the court. Keep in mind that this opinion in the Dobbs case, Dobbs versus Mississippi, is 216 pages. And I'm not sure if that sounds like too many pages or not enough pages to have abrogated the rights of so many millions of women, so many millions of uterus owners. but there are so many words within the dissenting opinion that I really think are worth sharing, and I'm going to share a few with you tonight. This dissenting opinion was written by Justices Breyer, Sotomayor, and Justice Kagan. Whatever the exact scope of the coming laws, one result of today's decision is certain: the curtailment of women's rights and of their status as free and equal citizens. Yesterday, the Constitution guaranteed that a woman confronted with an unplanned pregnancy could, within reasonable limits, make her own decision about whether to bear a child, with all the life-transforming consequences that act involves. And in thus safeguarding each woman's reproductive freedom, the Constitution also protected the ability of women to participate equally in this nation's economic and social life. As of today, this court holds a state can always force a woman to give birth, prohibiting even the earliest abortions. A state can thus transform what, when freely undertaken, is a wonder into what, when forced, may be a nightmare. Some women, especially women of means, will find ways around the state's assertion of power. Others, those without money or child care or the ability to take time off from work, will not be so fortunate. Maybe they will try an unsafe method of abortion and come to physical harm or even die. Maybe they will undergo pregnancy and have a child, but at significant personal or familial cost. At the least, they will incur the cost of losing control of their lives. The Constitution will, today's majority holds, provide no shield, despite its guarantees of liberty and equality for all. The dissent goes on to explain that this decision doesn't stop here, that this decision arose from the same body of law that gave all of us the right to such personal destinies, such deep personal decisions as contraceptive choice, as choices about how we raise our children, how we form our relationships, decisions about who we marry, how we marry, that it won't stop here. I'm going to leave you with the rest of the decision for you to read on your time, but I want to end with this. The dissenting opinion wraps up this way: with sorrow for this court, but more for the many millions of American women who have today lost a fundamental constitutional protection, we dissent. I dissent too. This resolution expresses the sponsor's feelings of this as well, that we dissent, and that we urge our leaders in the State House and the Governor's Mansion to take a firm stand for the idea that we cannot make a decision that determines that 51% of this nation is less than, that 51% of the people in this country are second-class citizens. And so we ask your support tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. You said it so well, but I'm going to open it up to see if there are any other sponsors or comments at this moment in time. Okay. Councilman Fusco?
Very briefly, just that, like everyone, stunned in shock last Friday whenever we heard the news of the United States Supreme Court decision attacking women's health issues. My thoughts initially turned toward the women in my life that I work with here, my family, friends, but mostly my granddaughters. And I wasn't going to say anything this evening, but I was told that the women that we cherish, that we love so much, you may need us. So we're with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I also would like to thank Mr. Malik for asking me to be a co-sponsor. Thank you. I'm honored.
Councilman Malik?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm not going to speak at length because my colleague has said, I think it as powerfully as needs to be said, but I wanted to focus on the consequences of this legislation that are already happening, the harm that's already being caused to women right here in Akron and right here in Ohio. Because on Friday afternoon, I typed up this request for legislation, and our law department really diligently and quickly put it together. But just within a couple hours of having submitted that, the state attorney general had gone to court to get the 2019 fetal heartbeat bill implemented into law. A bill that was unconstitutional when it was passed. It was passed because it was unconstitutional, because they hoped it would go to the Supreme Court. And they hoped that it would be used to overturn Roe v. Wade. It wasn't, because they didn't have the votes to overturn it. Now they do. Within hours, right? So it's 6 weeks now. At a time when some women are just finding out that they're pregnant, or women with irregular cycles may not even know at that point. At that point, at 6 weeks, women in Ohio are prohibited from having an abortion if a fetal heartbeat is detected, even if the pregnancy is a result of rape or incest. The amount of harm and trauma and pain that this is going to cause now is enormous and incredible. And that's not even to mention that in the coming months, our state legislators will seek to fully ban abortion entirely. And I hope there's an exception for the life of the mother. But even that is often a subjective determination. Who better to make those determinations than the woman whose body we're talking about? I can have all the opinions in the world. I can have all my own religion. You can have your religion. You can have your opinions. No one should tell someone else what to do with their body. And I don't know how we are going to address it. There are going to be ways to address it. I hope that we as a city can look at what some of the companies are doing in helping provide funds, travel funds, for women who are going to need to go to other states to seek health care. I hope that we can look at what our Cuyahoga County prosecutor said today, that he would not enforce this fetal heartbeat bill, right? We have a abortion clinic right here in Summit County, and we have a Summit County prosecutor who should consider that, and we should urge our county prosecutor to consider that. There will be many other steps where we should raise our voices today and every day, because these rights are going to continue to be under assault, and people are going to continue to be harmed by them.
Thank you so much, Councilman. Councilman Amobian, did you want to make a motion?
I thought I did. Committee's report is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
Okay. I thought you had mentioned something about trying to do a motion for council
Oh,
poll.
I'm sorry. Thank you. I can put it out there, but I'm not sure where it will go. I would like to do mayor and council as a whole if there's, the motion to support it, if there's a second.
Is there a second? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Connor. Aye. Freeman.
On behalf of 40 million babies that were never given the opportunity to be born, I vote no.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley. Aye. Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The motion passes 11-2, mayor and council as a whole, except for Freeman and Lombardo.
Okay. Thank you so much. That concludes our new legislation for this evening. We're now going to go to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. Just going to ask, when you hear your name, please approach the podium. Please give us your name and your address. Speakers are reminded that this is an official meeting. You will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. Remarks should be kept germane to council business. Anyone who breaches decorum will be ruled out of order and may be removed from council chambers. All those speaking during our public comment period, just going to ask that you stand right now at this time so that you may be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Those wishing to speak, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying, I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's see. We do have one person who is online with us, and so Alyssa Figueroa, we're going to start with you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry. I was trying to unmute.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on tonight to speak. So you can go ahead and start the clock. I'll be brief, though. All right. So first I wanted to thank the council members who did write the resolution supporting abortion as a healthcare right. I know that it's, challenging right now, but I do appreciate that, there were some of you that were willing to stand up and say that abortion is healthcare and that you support those who are seeking that as a healthcare service. I also want to say thank you to council people from Wards 1 and 8 for being at the event at Rich Swirsky Park on Friday. It was a somber event, but it was also something I think that we all kind of needed. So I just wanted to come on tonight to reaffirm that abortion is a private healthcare decision, not the business of the government or other citizens. And unfortunately, we know that this is just the beginning. I cannot imagine what sort of awful things that the state legislature is going to come up with that we haven't even heard about yet or even thought about. But I also wanted to say that right now, protecting abortion rights means not prosecuting folks who are seeking this healthcare service that is now considered illegal. I know we don't have abortion clinics here in Akron, but thinking about other levels of government and kind of what sorts of things we can do here to work with others and protect those who are seeking an abortion. Cuyahoga County and Franklin County prosecutors' offices both said that they will not prosecute folks who are seeking abortions. And I want to urge the city council here to do everything they can to keep folks safe, work with other levels of government, and make sure that no one in Akron is prosecuted for seeking an abortion. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. Peronita, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Okay.
Good evening, Council. My name is Peronita. I live at 38 Marshall Avenue, Apartment 7, Akron, Ohio, 44303 in Ward 1. And I just wanted to follow up with what Alyssa and the rest of Council has just said. Friday afternoon was heartbreaking. My world shattered. I'm sure a lot of others, uterus carriers, their worlds shattered. My heart is heavy. Supreme Court decision doesn't reflect the majority of Americans. Majority of Americans support choice. They don't support anti-choice. I was just at an event before this, kind of graphic, where a nurse told me that she had to prepare a rape kit for an 11-year-old. In a country where 11-year-olds are getting raped, where they are able to get pregnant, we're denying them that childhood that they are supposed to have. Children should not be pregnant. An 11-year-old is not allowed to adopt a child. Why is an 11-year-old supposed to take a pregnancy to birth? I've also been up here previously, as some of you might recall, in comment in regards to the prayer part of council. And that was about making people more inclusive, not just being very Christianity-centric, and be more inclusive. The Supreme Court justice is very Christianity-centric. Not all religions believe that pregnancy begins at conception. The Judaism religion does not believe that pregnancy begins at conception. From what I was told, the Islamic religion doesn't believe that pregnancy begins at conception. So why are we enforcing our own beliefs on other people who don't necessarily follow those religious beliefs? I want to thank council for proposing this resolution. Thank you, Councilman Holland. Thank you, Councilman Malik. Thank you, Councilman Fusco as well. Because I think this is necessary. It's necessary for Akron to be a sanctuary state for abortions. I think it's necessary for Akron to not prosecute those who seek an abortion, because it is a person's choice as to what they decide to do with their own bodies. If you say otherwise, then you're not an equal because you don't have access to your full bodily autonomy. Thank you.
Thank you, Pernita. Apostolette?
Wow. Wow. 2022 and women are still oppressed. Wow. And our children. I didn't come here to talk about that this evening. I had some other things, but before I go to say what I wanted to talk about, Christianity doesn't believe in a lot of things, and I don't want religions to fight one another. I lost my children because of my rights to my body to keep my children. So I understand more than people will understand, and I am a Christian. And I also understand that if I have to choose whether to have a baby or to die, I would have to lose the baby because I don't want anybody else to raise my child. But this is my body, and nobody has a right to tell me what to do with it. And I thank you for that legislation. I came this evening for something else, and I'm just going to read to you. I'm burdened behind that because women are even fighting each other over this. And we've got to get on the same page, and we've got to revisit that Constitution, everybody. In the Constitution, it does not have language for women. Good evening to each of you. It's time to put prayer back into the academic setting as a prerequisite and the daily agenda. Prayer has been taken out. Pistols and other violence have been put in its place. The United States Department of Education is a financial prison pipeline promoting present-day slavery and other concerns. The racial disparity is very real. It is current and ever-present in these times. It is also mandatory that no one support Ohio House Bill 616, which is an effort to silence the voice of the people who address this racial disparity. Yes, skin color does matter. If it did not matter, racist, Seleucid whites would not fight so hard to oppose people who are not white having equal opportunities. Funding would not be withdrawn from non-white communities. When the discussion of equal opportunities arises, those who are in what they call privilege do not address this. We people of color have never been in the position of being racist. Neither are we interested in doing so. House Bill 616, Ohio House Bill 616, is an undercurrent to silence the opposition to the present-day slavery. And as I take my seat, I just want to say to you, in the Bible, Matthew the 24th chapter, it states that these days will be difficult for women and are having children. And I pray, Council President, and everybody in this room that we can get on the same page and know the lives and the value of each other, and we come on the same page. I did make a copy of all this information for you, Council President, and I don't know who I would give it to.
Apostle, you can give it to Councilwoman Amobian.
Okay, and then I have anybody else that wants a copy. Clerk and the law clerk. And I want us to come together so we can help.
Thank you so much. John Sharp.
John Wesley Sharp, attorney and counsel at law, 730 Caddis Drive. Daniel Horgan, God is with us. Daniel Horgan, God is with us. He has taught us to open our mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. Proverbs 31:9. Akron small black businesses are the poor and needy because of you. Daniel Horgan, God is with us. We are strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Ephesians 6:10. Prejudice is in the mind. Discrimination is act and act. Not having a discrimination clause or enforcing a non-discrimination clause in your city contracts is discrimination. Racism, when you despise and attack African Americans. You rule and run your administration and your office with an iron fist. You come into our community and present yourself as a shining example of justice and fair play. We are the Coalition for a Safe Community. We do not call names. When the Akron Beacon Journal and the Reporter newspaper expose you, will you be called a hypocrite? You will spend our share of the economic coded funds for small black business. You will advise Mark Greer to assist them to fill out applications. You will demand that Samuel DeShazian grant and approve them.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Reverend John Beatty.
Madam President and members of the council, I'm so thankful that you did pass that resolution. I would remind our Catholic brothers and sisters on the council, the Methodist tried to force the Catholics not to drink alcohol by a constitutional amendment. They failed drastically. We must not go that route again. Before I share what Phil Lombardo and I did this last Saturday, I promised John Sharp I would say a word about helping out our black businesses. One night on Cuyahoga Falls Avenue, I noticed a black man running a restaurant on a vacant lot at the corner of Howard Street and Cuyahoga Falls Avenue. It consists of a couple of plastic tables, a propane stove, a trash can, and one delicious menu of barbecued chicken, ribs, and steak. He needs a tent over his restaurant so that he can serve the people who come to him on that vacant lot for food. I can do it in rain as well as when the moon is shining. That's Chill. That's his nickname. This afternoon I had a delicious vegetarian hot dog from Derek, a black entrepreneur in Highland Square. He has been on the square for 9 years. He needs a little electric tow motor to pull his heavy cooking cart up the long hill from West Hill neighborhood where he lives to the square. He needs at least $4,000 to buy the equipment he needs to get up that hill and a few more propane tanks and other equipment. ARPA funds should be going to hardworking businessmen like these two men. Derek told me this afternoon that when he started his business, the inspection fee was $50. Now, he says, it is $270, a more than 500% increase. Why does the city charge so much from people like Chill and Derek. He said, the city said, well, we don't want you competing with the brick and mortar restaurants. I don't think his little shop is much competition for them, but it is a black business that desperately needs help. Going on to speak about what we did last Saturday, Mr. Lombardo and I teamed up to lead the Mitzvah Day North Hill Cleanup Parade. He got all the supplies we needed from Keep Akron Beautiful and hauled away all the trash we and about 35 others picked up on the north sidewalk of Cuyahoga Falls Avenue. More than a half dozen faiths, including several different Protestant churches, Catholics, Baha'i, Muslim, Jewish, atheist, and just plain no faith, were represented, plus several interfaith and justice organizations. Chief?
Excuse me, you've reached your time limit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Beatty. Alana Banfield Ayers.
Hello. I live at 1911 Cherrywood Lane, and I've lived in my home in Cherrywood for 21 years. I'm here today on the advice of my Ward 6 Councilman, Brad McKittrick, and the Equalization Board to make a formal request to eliminate the special assessment for myself and my 3 neighbors whose properties have George Washington Boulevard behind our homes. For the tax year 2021, our 4 properties were billed a combined total of $4,353.62 for street lighting and cleaning. This street does not bring value to our homes, quite the contrary, for the following reasons. We do not have access to this road from our properties. Actually, there are property owners down from us who have cut a driveway across city property and do have access to George Washington Boulevard, and they do not pay the special assessment. We do not want access anyway, as it would be extremely dangerous. The 35-mile-an-hour speed limit is not enforced, and the average speed is 15 to 20 miles over the limit, including semi-trucks and other large vehicles, including city vehicles. I made multiple appeals over many years to my councilman, current and previous, and to the city for help slowing down the traffic. A few years back, Lieutenant Decatur approved a radar trailer to be placed behind my home for 2 days, and it did make a huge difference. I requested a permanent radar solar-operated sign, but it was denied on the basis that those are only placed near schools. The semi-trucks shake my entire home as they speed behind it, and it can be absolutely terrifying when you're outside. Our councilman can attest to this, as he's recently used a radar detector in a police car on George Washington Boulevard to see this concern and the danger. Many of these vehicles have run off the road and into our backyards, leaving us with the damage and the repair expenses. During nice weather, we have motorcycles, dirt bikes, and four-wheelers racing up and down the street on a daily basis. The street lighting is something that you would see on a highway, shining into our homes in the form of light pollution. I have made multiple appeals over many years to my councilman, current and previous, to the city lighting department, and to First Energy to do something about it. We clean up the garbage, including beer cans and broken bottles, from this road on a daily basis. We clean the leaves behind there, as there is no leaf service removal provided. In closing, we feel that this special assessment is disproportionate to the value of our homes and the service we're getting, considering that one of the streets that we're paying for we cannot access. This road hinders the property value of our homes. The lights, traffic, and garbage are a constant irritant into our daily lives. We are good citizens of Akron. We keep our neighborhoods a pleasant place to live. We pay our taxes, and we're asking for our city officials to hear us. Please remove the portion of the special assessment associated with George Washington Boulevard, as we believe is an unfair assessment.
Thank you so much. Craig and Edith Brindley. Okay, perfect, very good.
I was hoping to get all the minutes.
Okay.
Pages.
Okay, I would give it to you if you need it. Kevin Claus. Okay. Okay, perfect. So just want to let you know, everyone that came down on Cherrywood Lane, your councilperson has spoken with me, and we're going to do all that we can to rectify the issue for you, okay? So he is working on your behalf.
We've talked to him at length for multiple years. We were told that we could possibly speak to someone after this meeting to have something in addition begin to finally happen.
And even if we don't have a representative here that can speak to you, there'll be someone who can, okay, so that we can address it for you, okay? Yes, this evening, okay, right after. You're welcome. Gretchen Gilmore.
Good evening. My name is Gretchen Gallimore. I live at 562 Megwin Avenue and have for the past 15 years. I'm in Ward 1. Friday was a dark day, and I will intentionally address Councilman Lombardo and Freeman. I hope you have chosen adoption. There are plenty of children that already exist in this world that need homes. No woman in her bucket lists determines abortion is one of them. You know, mine was skydiving, certain other things. I only have 3 minutes, so. Nobody chooses this. It's not, oh, I'm gonna go get an abortion today. No. It's 13-year-olds that are raped by their uncles. It is women who have longed to become a parent, finally had that, luck, and became pregnant, only to find out on their 20-week ultrasound that the baby doesn't have a brain, or the baby's lungs never developed. What are they to do? Do they carry those pregnancies to term? Have everybody at the grocery store that wants to rub their belly, because this is supposed to be a moment of joy. 20 more weeks of having to say, my baby will die upon birth. Those dads that are all excited, that's gonna be my boy, I'm gonna play catch with him, I'm gonna show him my skill as an electrician, dashed. Now they're forced to give birth. A baby without a brain will never be pushed through the birth canal. Mama will have to have a C-section. That is major surgery, whether men realize it or not. We give birth via C-sections. Moments later, we're lifting up our 2-year-olds and a baby on our hip. It's ugly. A little 13-year-old girl's pelvis is not fully developed, and you want her to push a baby out? Have you lost your mind? Your religion should play no part in this decision whether a woman has a choice or not. Not all of us have your belief system. The Jewish faith stands behind their women and their right to choose. No man should have to bury his wife and his child because it was not born with the organs necessary to sustain life. I would like to thank the members of council who sponsored this resolution and did the just thing in voting for the women and all with a uterus. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gilmore. Harrington Hargrove.
Good evening, Council. My name is Harrington Hargrove. I live at 1008 Laurel Avenue, Akron, 44307, Ward 3. And we've been having the Beacon Journal come in our community down in Ward 3 for the last week and a half, asking the community, what do we want, what do we need in our community? And I had the privilege to talk to him because I like talking to people just to see what their mindset is. And I spoke about the difficulty we've been having as citizens about this racial discrimination when it comes to economic development in this city. And as we had conversation, we were talking, and then we spoke, and he said something about, well, you have 5 black leaders down there, what's the problem? I said, well, what you fail to realize, it takes a majority. 5 minus 13 is 7. So who loses? The minorities. This council knows our situation, but you won't do anything about it. 5 say yes, 7 say no. The no's, who are you? Stand up and be counted. Because the fact of the matter is, that's how it works in this council. It's the majority rule. And this council has failed the minority. I've been sitting at this podium asking you to do something to elevate the black community. But like it is now, it's silence. No one rises and say what we're going to do. No one rises and say we feel your pain in those communities. And so, and I spoke about the Elevate Akron's report. But some council act like it doesn't even exist. They never heard about it. Your actions show that as well. I've asked you to allocate money for the black community. $145 million in opera dollars, and we were told somewhat, but we may not get any of that. It's a couple of weeks ago. So when I'm asking this council, is why not? You know the situation in the black communities. It's stated, it's been written, and now it's time for action. I'm asking this council to rise in action and allocate funding for us. $145 million in the black community as far as economic development, community development. I would like this council, I say $10 million out of ARPA dollars and another $5 million a year out of the budget, and that will solve our problem. So, council, I just say, do something for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hargrove. Cassandra Dortch.
Good evening. My name is Cassandra Dortch. My address is 1724 Brookwood Drive, Akron. I am a Ward 8 resident. However, prior to was Ward 5. My family has a more than 70-year presence in East Akron. We still have in our family household children. And I am very concerned. I come here too with a heavy heart. I am concerned over the gun violence. We in East, and I'll say we because I'm in East Akron much of the time, visiting my family. I would say probably every weekend since the beginning of this year, there has been gun violence. And I am here to enlist your support. I've heard you speak of declaring emergencies. I don't know what all that entails, but we have a serious situation that we need your help with. People are calling for the police constantly. Just yesterday, there was gun violence. There were 3 that were shot. We need your help. Again, we do have heavy hearts. I had a niece who was killed April 14. Drive-through violence. In a car just driving through. Any of us can be driving through and hit. We need help. We need to stop the madness. We need to preserve our lives, our children's lives. And I don't know, I'm not hearing much from council. I know you all know, but we need some action. We need you to be more aggressive. If there are things that are in the works, we need you to be more aggressive with them because lives are being taken and families destroyed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Dortch. Heather Pollock.
Hi, I'm Heather Pollock, 122 Grand Avenue, Ward 1. I want to say that secular government has no obligation to uphold the tenets of any faith, let alone defer to them. In fact, it is obliged to stand in the way of that line being crossed. The architects of this latest move from Friday would like us to believe that it is about babies, and maybe it's about Jesus or baby Jesus. Likewise, we are asserting that the most important thing is women's health, and of course, that's important. As a 50-year-old woman, I believe in women's health being important. However, it is not inspiring. We know none of those things is the whole truth, neither of those things. And so I urge you in your resolution to take off the gloves. This is not about babies. It's not about women's health. Women's health is, we have proven again and again in this country that no one will fight for it. No one does, and you saying it is kind, but it won't move the needle. We need to take off the gloves. We need to call this out for a move of Christian nationalism, more importantly, white Christian nationalism. I urge you to put that language in your resolution, and I thank you for making the resolution.
Thank you, Mrs. Pollock. That concludes our public comment period for this evening. We will now move into our committee assignments. Rules, Councilman Freeman.
2 p.m.
Public Safety, Councilman Kamer.
2:15.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman.
3 p.m.
Parks and Rec, Councilman Lombardo.
1:45.
Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco.
1.
Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco.
Subject to a call.
Public Service, Councilwoman Mosley.
2 p.m.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
2:30.
Public Utilities and Green Committee, Councilman Freeman.
2:45.
Is there anything else coming before council at this time? Councilman Amobian?
I have 2 items. One, I just want to remind the council regarding the Commission on Aging, this 5-year strategic plan that they unveiled. Would like to get your feedback by the 1st of July. Just want to remind you of that and send it to them. I believe, Sarah, did you and Michelle did send? Okay, so you did receive that from our clerk's office, so please respond. Secondly, I was reviewing the mayor's rehabilitation plan, and I was caught off guard and pretty concerned that one of the items, one of the planks in the press release talked about home ownership, and what concerns me more than anything is that unless, I hope somebody knows about the tracts, because if you can tell me the numbers, because most of the citizens, or many of the citizens in those census tracts that are covered by those ARPA dollars are renters. And it concerns me that the first group that we are addressing are those that are homeowners. Can someone please tell me how soon we plan to roll out a plan for the renters? Because if you rented for 3, 5, 10 years or whatever, you still need the protection of those dollars, and I'm not really sure why we're not talking about those individuals. We seem to be rolling out a plan for everybody else, but those that are most in need, it doesn't seem to be coming fast enough. So I would hope that somebody could give us some information as to how many folks in those census tracts that are covered, that we have been told about, how many of those are renters versus homeowners? Because I think you will find a lot of them are renters. And I'm really troubled by the fact that we're not rolling out a plan for that group before we start talking about homeowners. You know, if you live in a place and you've lived there 5, 10 years or whatever, and the roof is leaking and the landlord is not taking care of it, somebody needs to take care of it, and I think that's what this ARPA money is for. So I would like to hear more about that plan, and hopefully sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Malik?
Thank you, Madam President. Just briefly, Ms. George, thank you for coming, and I'm sorry for your loss, but I really appreciate you reminding us of the toll that gun violence is taking in our community. On late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, a 20-year-old woman was shot and killed in the parking lot of the movie theater at Chapel Hill. And this is the latest in a series of terrible, terrible killings that have happened in our community. And we have to bring a greater sense of urgency to this issue. And I think it underscores another point that I just wanted to make briefly, which is that the decisions that we make in this room really do matter. And one example of that is that 44 years ago, the members of this body voted on some pretty significant restrictions on abortion. And those were brought into a courtroom, and they were appealed, and they were appealed until the United States Supreme Court said that they violated Roe v. Wade. And that became a critical piece of our country's constitutional law as a result of the decisions made in this room for good or for ill, right? And so whatever the decision is, whatever, people might say, why does it matter what the city's opinion is about abortion? It's mattered in the past, it matters today. And that applies to every single issue. So thank you for raising this, and I hope we can act with greater sense of urgency on every issue.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Mosley?
Thank you, Madam President. I have a few things. First, I agree. Gun violence is an emergency. It's not something we can continue to talk about, and we've been talking about it for quite some time, even before I came to council. East Akron is on life support. North Akron is on life support. Every day there is a shooting on one side of town. I had residents call me from Chitlin Street last night. They were up there shooting. One of the girls wanted to video the whole thing so I could see it because I was on the other side of town. And one of the officers told her she couldn't. They wanted her to go back into the house. But this cannot become the new normal, and it has become the new normal around here, and it's frightening to not even want to drive down the street. You can't blow at somebody if they're walking in the street because you're in fear of, do they have a gun? We've had this happen before in North Akron. A lady blew at two young men in the street, and they shot her. Two young ladies shot over at Chapel Hill. One of them passed away. It's like every day, Facebook has turned into a social obituary for us. That's where we get the latest news of who's been shot in Akron. The flock cameras needed. Ring cameras needed. More police presence in these neighborhoods needed. And I'll say it again, and I'll keep saying it again until the day I'm no longer here. Substations in these neighborhoods are needed. If there was a substation on the corner of Milton and Chittenden, I can guarantee you the foolishness would calm down. If there's a substation in South Akron, the foolishness would calm down. If there was a substation in West Akron and North Akron, the foolishness would calm down. If they know they have to travel, a lot of these young people are getting away with a lot of things they wouldn't normally get away with. And it's frightening and it's scary when you're constantly driving and looking behind you to see if someone is following you, if you're in certain neighborhoods. I had one of my friends call me at almost 1:30 in the morning in a panic because a car was behind her. She thought somebody was following her. It was just the police because her taillights were out, and she panicked. I don't know why she called me, but I stayed on the phone with her till she got home. But this is our reality, and it's scary to even have to think like this. Some neighborhoods, we hear gunshots all the time. We don't even flinch anymore. This is our reality. I just hope that, the cameras are good, but we've got to do more. We've got the money to do it, and we've got to figure it out. We've got issue 4 money, police, roads, and fire. Police, roads, and fire. We need to be taking some of these dollars and putting them together, even if we do pilot substations, so these individuals and even our elderly know that there is a police presence close by. I'm concerned. I'm concerned with you. I've lived it. And lastly, I just want to echo and thank Councilman Malik and Councilwoman Holland for bringing in the resolution. Friday was hard for a lot of us. As the daughter of a devout Catholic, my dad was a devout Catholic, my mom was Christian. I got pregnant when I was 15 years old, but I still had a choice. Nobody forced me to do anything. I had a choice. I had 2 kids by the time I graduated from high school, and I still had a choice. And my dad was a devout Catholic, and I still had a choice. I think we got to do better as a country and as a nation to force a woman to do something that she does not want to do. I'm afraid of what that looks like for this country and what it looks like for that infant. It's a scary time that we're living in. When you think about if there's not enough boxes for women to drop babies in, what do they do if they're in a panic? It's a scary time, and it worries me, because when you see the rhetoric, really quick, the rhetoric has to stop. When you hear elected officials that across this country, people like us have elected and put them in office talking about, thank you for saving white life. These are the kind of people we're dealing with. That's scary. And these are people that are being elected and put in office. We've got to stand up, and we have to do something as a collective body, regardless of our race, because this is going to affect each and every one of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Neal, just going to ask we maintain order in the chambers. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to comment on the one piece that came before rules with the campaign contribution. So that we can have an understanding of the true need, I think it may be good if we look at, what's the balance in all of our accounts right now? Because if we have a balance, that means that we had something to work with. And I say that because if we truly, in the resolution, it's about making communication accessible with voters, then, like I said, we want to look at moving that primary back to September, so that those who don't have access to cash can use their sweat equity to go out and be in front of candidates, not just put a glossy in the mail. That's one. Second, I feel the residents that came down here to talk about their assessments. Last week, we had a chance to celebrate the beautiful land bank. And I was joking with one of our former colleagues who lives behind there, has a beautiful home, about, the Summit County Fiscal Officer who come by and reassess your property, joking. But then I sat back and I thought about it. Those people who have lived in those homes for 30 years, 40 years in that neighborhood are now like the folks that came down being assessed higher tax values, property tax values. It just comes with the way the policy was set up. I don't think any of them would want, not want the land bank there. It's a beautiful building, and it's an asset to the community. But we have to reassess our policies. Here we're giving people 15-year, 100% tax abatements, and we're forcing the burden to pay that for that on folks who can barely, some of them, make ends meet, because they've paid off their house, but they don't have enough maybe to do more. So we definitely have to look at our policy. And anytime you implement a policy, the smart thing is always to audit it, to see if it's actually achieving the goal that you want to achieve. But we definitely have an inequity in how we're taxing. With assessments, like we said, Toledo, Cleveland, Youngstown, and I can find other cities, for general assessments, maintenance of roads, they do not assess the homeowners. Some use levies so that it's more equitable across the board, like we do for our schools, like we did with issue 4. That's one. The other thing is, I feel, I don't know what's going on in this country. Many have spoke about the abortion issue. But how many of you are familiar with, in Ohio, Senate Bill 156? Where now you can conceal brass knuckles, switchblade, billy club. What are we trying to do in this country? I mean, I really don't know. But we as my colleague said, we have to try something in these chambers to empower our residents to maintain a sense of civilization within our city. Now, these opera dollars that come are part of that is for that purpose. They were brought in to deal with the uptick of violence that came about because of COVID. We like looking at other cities, what other cities did. Our colleagues in Youngstown, a city of only 60,000, gave each one of their wards $2 million to address whatever issues those constituents and their elected representative, along with the administration, felt was necessary to address the issues in their ward. It boils down to relationships, and I want to speak to this. During Juneteenth, one of the events I participated in was an event that's been taking place for over 19 years. It's where men in the community come together and out of their pocket would have a cookout at the pool. And it was a old-style family reunion. For years, police would never come because you had a little bit of everything going on. But it was peaceful, and it has been peaceful and civil. I'm saying one of the things we need to do is empower the community. Empower the community to be able to strengthen the relationships within their community. I don't know why we're afraid to do that. Because it's the community that has to deal with either the good or the bad policy that we implement here. And right now, we're not doing anything. And so I'm hoping that before we go on recess, we answer the calls that have come to us and have a plan, at least give each ward resources to work with their constituents. It may look different in some wards. And yes, ARPA dollars are restricted to certain census tracts, but we have our general budget that we can work with as well, because this is hitting every ward. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Fusco?
Yeah, thanks. I would, I understand the question that came up today referenced the campaign finance, and again, asking for input from council and the community. But I just wanted to remind council altogether that changing the primary date basically was an initiative that was brought forward by the Board of Elections to save taxpayer dollars, number one. Number two, this council can't do that. It was voted on by the voters by an initiative. It's a charter issue that was passed pretty substantially. So just in terms of that particular piece, I think it's important that council recall.
Thank you. Councilman Neal?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I would like to, let's keep things in perspective. A lot of money was spent by the administration to push that issue because there wasn't a supermajority in this council to get it out of this body. So again, money came into play with that. And what was the result? A lower voter turnout, and we know that it's inequitable to folks who don't have those dollars. So if you really want to engage the residents, give more time for folks to walk the community, to get engaged with folks. So let's not distort the facts. there were people paid who didn't even know anything about the legislation to go out into communities and get people to sign the petition to put it on the ballot, and then the messaging was such. A lot of the money was spent to pass that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Malik.
Motion to adjourn.
And before we do adjourn, just a reminder that we will not be in session on next Monday because of the 4th of July. We do have a motion for adjournment. If there are no objections, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.